Another day, another game week in the top 5k. It must be nice to be an FPL expert like myself. Guys, welcome back to another video. This is my team selection for game week 17. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. Once again, we were saved by the Monday fixture in our last game week. Bruno Fernandes came in clutch yet again with another double-digit haul to get me from a red arrow to a grey arrow. And I know what you're thinking, what's a grey arrow? I'm clearly on a red, but I went down 56 places. That's hardly a red arrow. I'm in the same place where I started, you know, it's hardly any difference. And yes, of course, that does mean the bad boy shades are back, top 5k shades. You know how it is, guys. You know how I roll. Let's talk about the team. Aside from Bruno, we had some decent scores. Our captaincy haul from Saka was lucky, but it was also the wrong choice. You know, clearly we should have chose Haaland. Picking Saka was a mistake. We were lucky to get more than 3 points, and I will happily admit that as someone who captained Saka. In general, we got a lot of blanks across the board. I mean, Sanchez once again clutched up and got me a differential 6 points. A lot of people are buying in on Sanchez now. I've had him since game week 1. You could call me a visionary. Yeah, Anderson, Raul Jimenez, they all failed. Timber failed. Vandenberg hit Defcons, which was nice. Nearly got a clean sheet, but they never really deserved one anyway. And Phil Foden hauled for me yet again, but his ownership is now so high, he is no longer a differential, you know. It was nice while it lasted. For both Bruno and Foden, you know, I had them both when they were low owned, and I was ahead of the curve because now everybody owns them because they're scoring so high. One thing is for certain, I made sure as hell I was not getting them Reinildo points. I was not anywhere near them. I pushed them all the way to the back of my bench, you know. For some reason, I didn't want points. Anyway, let's talk about the transfers I'm making going into the next game week. So, I need to sell Mbumo, and Mbumo's going off to AFCON. I don't want a guaranteed 0 points in my team, and I plan on using my wildcard in game week 18, next game week. So I may as well bring in a player for one game week, and who better to bring in than a player who is playing home to Burnley. It is the perfect recipe for a monster haul. The question is, who do I bring in? The basic answer is Semenyo, and that's who I was leaning towards in the beginning of the game week. But now I look more at the underlying data and I look at the recent form, I'm leaning more towards Tavernier, which is a shock. I did not expect to be wanting Tavernier this game week because Semenyo is clearly the obvious choice considering how good he's been, especially at the start of the season. But it's not so simple, you know. I look at the underlying data on recent form and Tavernier is actually winning. I mean, here is a graph of the last 4 game weeks I got from Fantasy Football Hub, Tavernier versus Semenyo, and Tavernier across the last 4 game weeks looks pretty good. Neither one of these players in the last 4 has taken a penalty, so the data is completely reliable. And even if we look at the last 8 game weeks for underlying data, Tavernier still is looking better than Semenyo, and they both took 1 penalty in this time, so the data is still fair and reliable. Either way you look at it, last 4 weeks, last 8 weeks, Tavernier has been better than Semenyo. He's been better at converting the chances, and he's been better at getting the chances. So even though he's a lot cheaper, and Semenyo is scary to go without because his ownership is so high, Tavernier simply is the better option, and I refuse to change my mind. Looking at the data, that's the only way I can perceive it. Sure, Semenyo has more shots in the box, but what good is a shot in the box if you're not getting any big chances? I do have 2 free transfers, but I'm not going to be making 2 free transfers. I don't need to. I'd rather carry it over into the future game weeks after I've used my wild card. I could make another short-term transfer, but I don't really want to. I like everyone else that's in my team. I'm going to carry 1 free transfer into the next game week, which doesn't technically make sense because I'm using my wild card, but I will carry it into the game week after. Either way, I know a lot of you have brought in Semenyo already, and that could easily be the right choice. You know, it's the safe choice. He could get more points. You know, I'm not a fortune teller, but if any of you are debating bringing in Semenyo, please take the time to think. Look at the data and maybe, you know, take the risk, you know, because it's the right choice. I know taking a risk can sometimes backfire, but when it's the right move, you cannot ignore it. All right, guys, let's head into my team selection. Sanchez starts in goal. Sorry, guys, I need to interrupt the video real quick. I just talked about Sanchez and how he can keep a clean sheet playing home to Aston Villa for the next 45 seconds, even though he plays away to Newcastle, which all of you already obviously know. That's a mistake on my part. Yeah, I don't have a lot of hope for Sanchez playing away to Newcastle. Anyway, let's get back on track with the video. In defense, we are lining up with a back 3. We have Timber, who I have high hopes for because the Arsenal defense is so good. They've actually been fairly unlucky with clean sheets recently. They're underperforming their defensive data because defenses are fragile to an extent, you know. If you concede 1 chance, you have a chance to concede. I mean, that's common sense. You don't need me to tell you that. But Arsenal's expected clean sheets are higher than their actual clean sheets, and I do believe they are unlucky to not be getting more clean sheets, and I believe they will continue to get more clean sheets. I would love to own 2 Arsenal defenders, but it's never been on the cards for me, so it's just Timber for now. His ownership is very high. An Arsenal clean sheet will probably negatively affect me anyway, so if anything, I'm hoping Arsenal don't get a clean sheet. Vandenberg playing away to the worst attack in the league. He could get defcons, he could get a clean sheet. I'm really hoping so. It's his last game week in my team, and he's not done much for me except get defcons last game week, which isn't anything major. But then again, you get what you pay for. He's only 4.5 million at the end of the day. So yeah, Vandenberg, please give me some points because Brentford defenders are low ownership. You know, a clean sheet from you would be very helpful. After him, we finish off the defense with Anderson. I brought in 2 Fulham guys last game week. I brought in Anderson, and we'll talk about the other guy I brought in later, who's an even bigger disappointment. But I'm starting to regret it. Sure, Anderson gets defcons, but the Fulham defense, while it's not bad, like it's not awful, and when they play at home, they're all right, I maybe overestimated their clean sheet potential. Let's just say that. You know, they didn't keep one against Burnley. In fact, they conceded twice against Burnley, which is, it's not encouraging, guys. So Anderson, he's here. I'm happy to play him because he could get a clean sheet. He could get defcons. So there's no way I'm leaving him on my bench or transferring him out. I just don't have a ton of hope for him. But once again, you get what you pay for, a 4.5 million defender. Going into midfield, I'm going differential in a few areas here, and I'm sure you can all see it. So let's look at Bruno Fernandes first because he is the least differential here. He was a differential, like I said earlier, but now so many people own him, and it, you know, with good reason. He plays away to Aston Villa, which isn't a great entry point, but Man United in their last 6 games against Aston Villa have 5 wins and 1 draw, so they always have a good game against Villa, and I'm sure that's going to continue. Despite Villa always being a tough fixture, I think United will be just fine, and hopefully Bruno is at the forefront of all the goal involvements. Another fairly basic player we have is Saka. I'm not a fan of owning Saka. I brought him in last game week purely for captaincy. I don't think he's worth over 10 million. I just want to say that right now. I say that a lot, that he's not worth the money, but I own him, so it makes me a bit of a hypocrite. But in general, I don't think he's worth the money. I brought him in for home to Wolves, and away to Everton is not the worst fixture. I mean, to be fair, I see Arsenal maybe scoring 2 goals in that game. They don't score a lot, but they do block other teams out. So they only need to score 1 or 2 goals to actually win. If Saka's involved in a goal, great, but I'm not getting my hopes up for it. These next 2 players are where it gets incredibly risky, and it makes my team a huge differential. Phil Foden as my captain just seems right. I talked about it in the last video. I compared Haaland to Foden. So if you want to see me go more in depth about it, go watch that video. You know, I think it's quite insightful. Long story short, a positional matchup for Foden playing West Ham does support Foden more than Haaland, you know. First off, West Ham can see cutbacks to centre mids, which is, you know, Foden's area. He'll receive a pass to the penalty area or the edge of the box. He'll be the guy picking it up and scoring, which is a weakness for West Ham. Also, they concede a lot of set pieces. And at first glance, you may think, well, Haaland can score headers. He must be the guy you want to target when West Ham are weak to set pieces. But Foden takes every single corner for Man City when he's on the pitch, left side and right side. So fair enough. If Man City score a corner, which is very likely, Haaland could be on the end of it. But one thing's for certain is that Foden will be the assister. So just keep that in mind. Foden's going to take advantage of that weakness from set pieces that West Ham have more than Haaland will. I pretty much just explained everything I've said in my last video, so maybe don't go back and watch it. There's almost no point. If I haven't convinced you now, I won't convince you at all. It's definitely a risk, but I think it's the right move. And if you have triple captain, I think you should use it on Foden. I think he's the best option this game week. And obviously, we talked about Tavernier. Home to Burnley is easily the best fixture for an attacker. Sure, Wolves are a lot lower in the league, but defensively, they are much more sound than Burnley. You may not believe me, but it's true. Wolves are just awful going forward, whereas Burnley, they can score a few goals, but they will concede a lot more. Tavernier, I hope he outscores Semenyo. I'm taking a big risk with this one as well. I believe he will because the data's better, the form's better, so hopefully he can prove me right. It would be huge if he could. You know, if Haaland and Semenyo blank while Foden and Tavernier return, that will be a huge green arrow for me, regardless of anything else. And now to my front 3. I don't like the front 3. I don't like owning some of these players. Obviously, Haaland is here. His effective ownership is going to be so high. I'm talking his points will absolutely ruin me. I'm fairly confident if he was even my captain, right, he would still negatively affect my rank because so many people would have him triple captain. So Haaland is public enemy number 1 by a long while, okay? I don't care if he gets a lot of points. I mean, I do. That would obviously upset me. The main thing is I want Foden to get more than Haaland. That's all I'm relying on because it would have meant I made the right choice, and I think I have. But obviously, football is random. Anything can happen, and obviously Haaland is normally the guy, but I'm happy taking this risk. I really hope I don't regret it. Haaland, please blank for me. After that, we have Thiago, and like I said, Wolves don't leak goals. They kind of make errors at the back, and they have a lot of players leaving for AFCON, but it's not like they've got anyone good leaving for AFCON because they've not got anyone good full stop, so I don't think they're going to get any worse. Thiago's non-penalty expected goals aren't great, but then again, playing away to Wolves, anything could change. I'm very happy owning him. His ownership is very high, very scary to go without, especially in a good fixture like this. And finally, Raul Jimenez, I brought in last game week. I maybe shouldn't have done it, okay? I'm kind of regretting it. I mean, he had a good fixture. When you have someone that's playing against Burnley, there's always a chance they get a massive haul. And I was right. I just picked the wrong player. Wilson is the one who got the big haul. Raul Jimenez had one shot the entire game. Awful underlying data, and his underlying data across the last 4 isn't great either. I really just thought the good run of fixtures would turn it around for him. Obviously not. I hope Forest can be a good game for him. You know, he's a good finisher. We know that. He's on penalties. He's got every chance to bag a goal, but he's not looking the sharpest right now. Hopefully, he can turn his form around and get me some points. Anyway, guys, that is it from me. That is my team. Let me know down in the comments what transfers you're thinking of making or what transfers you've made, and let me know who you're going to captain. Have I changed your mind? Have I convinced you to put the armband on Foden? Hopefully I have, so there's more of you with me. Anyway, thank you very much if you made it this far. Make sure you like and subscribe once again. I will see you all in the next game week.